Good morning, everybody. I got to get to your comments. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I started to test my mic and the batteries were dead. So I apologize. Those of you who are rewatching or just joining us, welcome. Today we are making vegan hot dogs that are made with veggies, oil-free, and kind of a little miracle thing. We're also going to make two versions of like those big link sausages, and we're going to talk about some different seasonings. In your packet, you're getting a whole bunch of stuff in your recipe packet. So, okay, and I will come back in and check with everybody in just a second. But so you're getting the recipes for the 3 things we're making, 2 things that we're not making, and about 4 or 5 spice blends. So we're going to do all of that. You don't hear anything. It's showing that you don't hear anything. Then my mic must not be on. Will you check to see if it was turned off over there? Okay, give me a second.
Did you turn the mic on?
Yeah.
On the box?
Yeah, I'm asking you to check where you are. Is it on? This is on. It shows that it's coming through.
It's on here.
Colleen hears me. Okay. I'm not sure why some of you guys aren't hearing me because everything is on. We just double checked. It's showing me on eCam that the sound is there. Okay, Caleb hears me. Excellent. Okay, because that was about to give me a heart attack. Because guys, I've been prepping all morning long. So let's talk a little bit about the class. I think we're fine now. Let me kind of come back in over here for a second. Okay. Awesome. I'm seeing if there's any questions. Andrew, yeah, it's just that I was a little bit late. So that was what was going on. Okay, so Caleb's saying try refreshing your page and make sure that you aren't muted on YouTube. So if you haven't watched me live on YouTube, you may have to do something a little bit different. In the emails you got, you had a little link about how to use YouTube, so you could go back there as well. But I know if you can't hear me, so that's not very helpful. I guess let me put that in the comment. There is a how to use YouTube in your email. Okay, awesome. Yay. Alrighty. So I've been busting my butt. Look, this is my breakfast. I did not finish my breakfast, and I do solemnly swear when I'm doing an overhead shot, I may take a bite. So let's talk again about what we're doing today. So we're making gluten-free, oil-free, vegan sausages and hot dogs. Each one has some veggies in it as well. I did try one thing with no flours, and that is not in this class because it didn't work for what we're doing, but that may come up in a future class. It's going to work for veggie grounds. So each one is going to be a little bit different. However, we're going to talk about a few things while we're making them. We're going to talk about what if your sweet potato mixture is wetter than my sweet potato mixture? How can we fix that? Because what we're doing is we're looking to put dry and wet ingredients together, smush them around, and come out with something that's like Play-Doh or clay. Then we're going to steam them. And that's how we're going to make kind of some vegan sausages. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make the sweet potato millet sausage link blend. Now, here's the thing. You can use any of the sausage blends that I have there. I've got andouille, fresh Polish sausage. I've got breakfast sausage, chorizo. I think I have something else in there too that I can't think of right now. We probably will make at least 1 or 2 of these spice blends, but they're easy peasy. You will have all the recipes to do it. What's happening is because each of these things takes almost an hour to cook, we may do things a little bit weird and come back to some other things so that you get to see everything. Because the most important thing though is figuring out how all this mixes together. So one mixture we're going to make in the food processor. The other two mixtures we're going to make in a bowl with a masher. If your wrists aren't really good, you can use the food processor. Just know it might make your mixture wetter, so therefore we might have to add some extra dry ingredients. Okay, and I think everybody's here and in and hearing, which is awesome. So we're going to do the first recipe. So what I've done for class today is I've cooked all the vegetables, all the lentils and millet and all of that. Those are also in your recipe. And the reason is so we don't have class for 8 hours. So it's not hard at all. So like in this first one, the sweet potato millet, we're going to do 2 mashes and a final mix. And in the final mix, we're going to include those dry mixtures. So the first thing we're going to do, and actually, let me get a bigger bowl. I'm going to use a bigger bowl in this one. A giant bowl. So this is 3 cups of cooked millet. And where did that guy go? Wait 1 second. I just closed something I didn't want to close. Oh, let me see if I can. There we go. I think that's a little bit easier to see. The sun is not cooperating. So we've got 3 cups of millet. And here's the thing, like I know Joanne's husband doesn't like millet, but he's probably not going to notice it in here. And what's kind of cool, and see how I'm going to go ahead and use this masher to kind of, this actually makes it look a lot like sausage because it looks like little fat pockets. But what it is a whole grain that's delicious. So we've got that going for us. We're going to put, this was 2 1/4 cups of potatoes before they were cooked. And it's a little less than that now. And that's okay. And then, oh, I think I got this. You know what? I got this backwards. I put 1 1/2 cups of potatoes and 2 1/2 cups of lentils, but it's going to work out just fine. And this will actually be a great example for what I'm telling you. Because it's about the ingredients you have. So you need a strong masher. One that looks like this is best. And my millet is pretty dry. If you use the recipe that's in your packet, because here's the thing, right now it's going to seem at first like too dry. But then as we add the other things in, again, it's trying to get that Play-Doh consistency. Now in your packet also, I have a recipe for sausage with gluten for those of you who can eat gluten. I have a big disclaimer, this has gluten in it. I can't eat it, but I had an andouille sausage recipe from one of my books, the Ultimate Vegan Cookbook for Your Instant Pot. So I thought, why not, right? And see how this makes much shorter work of it than if we were trying to just mix it. Eventually, we're probably going to have to mix this with our hands as well. Okay. So if you didn't have sweet potato, you could use potato. You could use carrot. You could use another puree. You could just use lentils. You could use no lentils and use extra sweet potato, right? Let's see what I got here. Oop. There we go. And Joanne says, hi everyone. Interesting class, seitan without gluten. I mean, it's a seitan substitute. So seitan is made with wheat gluten, which gives it all kinds of wonderful properties that makes it have the texture of meat. Now, one of the things we're doing is we're going to use some flours that have a higher protein value. They're just not going to be wheat because that's going to help us out a lot. Okay, let me get these flours over here. And yes, Jackie, you can totally pulse that in the food processor. So you can. One of the reasons I don't want to do this one is because I like the millet bubbles in there. It looks like fat globules, which is both amazing and could be disgusting depending on how you feel about things. So over here, I have like the land of flours. So you could try just using one and not using all of them. However, I think you're going to be happy with the mixture like I am. And probably what we're going to do too is I'm expecting a lull. So if I get a lull where everything's cooking and we still have time, I'm going to show you how to make your own oat flour. And if you have a Vitamix in a dry blender jar, you can actually grind things like quinoa. I haven't tried chickpeas yet, but supposedly you could. I think chickpea flour is pretty inexpensive. So I'm looking for chickpea flour. I want ground flaxseed, oat flour, quinoa flour. Got some tapioca starch. You can also use arrowroot if you'd prefer. And then we're going to do a spice blend. And so you could pick any. And this is what's kind of cool. If you're like, I think fresh Polish sausage is stupid, don't make it, right? You can still use this base with whatever you want. And I do need a couple of measuring cups. There we go. Alrighty. So, does anybody have any questions? I know sausage has fat globules. That's its nature. I know. And I thought that's why millet looked really cool. So I actually used millet because that was what was in my fridge. So, oh, the colors look pretty in the yellow bowl. Thank you. That's awesome. So you could use different flours. So I already put up the Amazon link to where all the stuff is too. So it's got, I think I did some of the flours, I did some of the grains, I did the steaming baskets and some of the other equipment we're going to see. You don't need it all. But if you're like Joanne, you might want something new. Or me, in fact. So, okay, let's get this measured. So I'm going to use a half a cup of chickpea or garbanzo flour. And I'm not being super fancy about weighing it out. Is it perfect? I don't care about it. We're looking for consistency. So if this mixture is less wet than the one I made, we may add some liquid. If this mixture is more wet than the one I made, we may add some extra flaxseed. So just know, as you watch and see this, it will be apparent. You'll feel when it's about right. Seriously, Play-Doh. It doesn't just smush in your hand. You can roll it and make a snake, right? That's what we're doing. So we're making edible Play-Doh vegan sausages. Yes, and Marilyn said, just checking, your printed recipe says 2 1/4 cups cooked sweet potato. And I did measure the sweet potatoes before today I measured the sweet potatoes before I cooked. So yeah, you should measure it after. This is exciting. This will be exactly what you need to see how to change things a little bit, because I actually used the amount of red lentils I called for sweet potatoes, and the amount of sweet potatoes I called for red lentils. So there. So now I will prove to you that it's okay. So I'm going to shake this up a little bit just so it's not super packed. and get about a half a cup. And so this is our chickpea flour. Okay. And chickpea flour raw smells nasty. Okay. So I just want you to know that I know that. It also means when you're testing this for salt or things like that, you just got to take one for the team. It's not the worst thing, but it is not the best thing. We're going to do about a half cup of ground flaxseed. And actually, I'm going to do a quarter cup. And I'll write this down here. The reason is because I changed my mixture. So I'm going to go ahead and start. And I'm making a note so I won't forget. We're going to use some quinoa flour. And let's see, Marilyn says, I mill chickpeas in my mock mill, but I haven't tried the Vitamix. I'm a little bit afraid of the Vitamix with that, I have to say. Okay. And there's about a half a cup of quinoa flour. Let's use our tapioca starch. We're going to use about a half a cup of that. And again, you could use arrowroot starch. The starch really helps, so I would not leave that out. I am going to get this. Eventually, I'm going to work this in with my hands. I still have the oat flour to add, but because I change things, I want to see what it looks like without the oat flour first, because I'm thinking we may not need that extra flour in this one. And I'm actually, in the end, glad that we're having to do this a little bit differently. The other thing is we want to go ahead and put in some salt. So you could do salt or salt substitute. Yeah, raw chickpea flour tastes nasty. I said it and I meant it. And it makes it smell a little strange. It's not enough of it to be super horrible, but like think of pakoras. Magical, made with chickpea flour. You eat them after it's cooked. So I'm going to put about 2 teaspoons of salt in here because I use salt. If you don't use salt, I would go ahead and use a neutral salt substitute blend. My go-to is in a little jar, mix 1 tablespoon of ground garlic, or garlic powder, granulated garlic, I don't care. 1 tablespoon of onion powder and a teaspoon of ground celery seed. Mix that all together. That works really great as a very neutral salt substitute. It gives you some of the feelings you're expecting in your mouth without overpowering whatever seasoning mix you're using. Speaking of seasoning mix, we're gonna make this one andouille or Italian sausage. I think I'm gonna make this one Italian sausage. So I'm using almost a quarter cup, let's say a whole quarter cup of these spice blends when I'm doing it. This one is really got a lot in there, so sometimes I'll even go a quarter cup plus a tablespoon. You can do it per taste or per smell, and we'll talk about that. Like obviously if I smell it now, Italian spices. But as we mix it in together, you'll start to get the smells of everything. Okay. And at some point, which is probably going to be about now, I'm going to go ahead and dig my hands in there. I'm going to set this to the side, and actually really quickly, I'm going to rinse this because we're going to use this a couple more times today. And I would rather this be easy to wash off. Remember, things like this are much easier to wash while they're still wet before anything gets a chance to dry on there. So do yourself a favor and do that. Cheryl is downstairs in actually a whole food plant-based day-long seminar for people with a health ailment, which is kind of cool. So she's not here to do my little washing up. I have to be a grown-up and do it myself. Okay, so we're going to get in here, And this is going to tell me, and remember, because my mix was drier, because these red lentils are a little drier than sweet potatoes. I also drained my sweet potatoes very well. So almost all of these veggies I put in a colander before I went ahead and am adding them to the mixes. And see, it's still a little sticky. I think we can get the oat flour in here. We'll see if we end up getting everything in here or not. Okay, let's see how I can do this one-handed. I'll share, this could be entertaining. Actually, let's just use about a quarter cup. Like a quarter cup of oat flour. So that way when you guys are asking me what I did, I'll know. That's why I'm writing it down. Okay. And so I'm just getting all that dry and wet mixed up together. And this seems like a good consistency. Now, if you eat oil, you could add oil to this. Now, it will make it taste a little, or the texture will be a little different. If you're not using oil, if you're following the recipe, and see how I'm mixing that oat flour in really good with my hands. And again, you can totally use your food processor. And I think we'll do that for one of them for sure. It's just you're not going to have the same, like see how all that is and it looks like little fat globs and things like that. You won't have that same kind of texture. And whereas I'm adding a little less of things in this batch, if I put it in the food processor, chances are I'd have to add a little more. Okay. All right. So I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to get some water, and then we're going to make some sausages. And if you wanted to at this point, you could take a little piece, taste it. Chickpea flour isn't that bad, but if you're not used to it, you're definitely going to taste something that seems weird. But you can see at this point, is it seasoned enough? Does it need more salt? You can also smell it. And I think I'm going to put a little more Italian seasoning. Ooh. And Jackie's saying I have some miso to use up. You could. You just know that that's a wetter ingredient, so I don't see why not. I'm going to go ahead and knead in probably another 2 to 3 tablespoons of the Italian seasoning blend. So I'm going to start from scratch, just like I was doing, so I can really, I'll let you see. So I really want to get that, touch every bit of that batter with my hands to try and really spread out that seasoning so it's in all of it. So it's really a lot like squishing. And if you see some, make sure you're trying to really work it in. Try to decide if I think yeah, I think that's probably good. Another thing look at all that over there. Nobody told me. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it didn't taste like it was enough for me. Maybe I didn't have it mixed in from over on this side. Okay. And let's see. Joanne said she had to buy another package of ground celery seeds. Yeah, and I often, once you have your spice grinder, which I will also encourage you today to have or get, you can just do them yourself. And it's really nice and fresh. And it's about $35 to get a spice grinder, so it just depends on if you can get it or not. You know, if it's in your budget. If it's not, that's okay. And then Marilyn, that's exactly what I was thinking about this morning. She dehydrates akara, which is soy pulp, and it's from leftover soy milk making or tofu making, and puts it in the Vitamix and then uses it as a portion for high protein. Absolutely. So that was literally what I was thinking this morning, but I used my akara in my test yesterday for another sausage, which you did get in your recipe packet. There is a warning because it is still in development, but I knew some of you who are more advanced cooks would want to play with it. So we've got this big old thing of dough. And let's see. And Diane says, is quinoa flour just quinoa blended in a Vitamix? Yeah, it's just quinoa that's milled. And if I have quinoa, we might try it when we get to, remind me when we get to the blender stuff. If we get to the blender stuff. But yes, it is just milled quinoa. It's nothing else in there. All right, let me wash my hands and stick these in there. I'm probably going to need that spatula later because that's my strongest spatula. I'm also going to get some water to kind of rinse my hands off while I'm making the sausages, because once it starts sticking, then it's like not okay. So I'm just going to get some water in here. Okay. And these big sausages, we are making half-cup chunks of it before we make them into sausages. So a couple of things. One, we're going to use some parchment paper because I know a lot of you would prefer, for the sausage not to touch the foil. Great. B, because these don't have oil in it, it's a much better idea because they could stick and really be unwieldy on that. So I'm cutting some pieces out of this parchment. Allow me to demonstrate. If you don't I buy mine in sheets already because I'm lazy and I just like it, and it also makes things like this easier too. We are not looking for perfection, okay? We are not looking for perfection. I will say again. So I'm going to take this, and the thicker it is, the harder it is to get it even. So I'm just going to kind of take it around here, take my kitchen shears, and get cutting. And it'll actually be a little easier. Be a little easier if I don't do all of it at once. I was trying to be fancy for you guys, and I have sausage dough on my finger. You didn't know you're getting such an attractive class. Okay. Not perfect. It'll be fine. And then I think I cut this into 4s. Oh, this definitely has to get cut in half. My scissors need to be sharpened, y'all. And I heard a question. Okara. Oh, yeah, the okara sausage. And okay, let's see what else we got here. We're looking for good food. Absolutely. Okay, so you don't need to see the overhead view of this anymore, but I'm just cutting some stuffs. And one day, when we can have a cooking retreat, when we can all go out in public again, one of you guys will be cutting these nice little things for me. And I will say thank you. Or maybe we need to get someone to actually make vegan sausage, parchment paper, all ready for us. But usually, just like now, with today, I don't know if this is extra. Usually I cut 2 to 3 times of what I'm gonna need. And I may have cut it into 3s before. But however it is, it'll all work out. If we decide we want to do 1/3 cup instead of 1/2 cup, if we don't like the big giant fat sausages, then that's what you should do. Nothing bad is really going to happen if you over steam these, so you don't really have to worry about that. Okay, great. So let me let you see this real quick too. And now the sun's coming out. I had it all set up for the sun not coming out. So see how there's a little bit, but not much at all coming off on me. All right. So I'm going to take literally a 1/2 cup measure, about. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. There's 6. I think we're just going to do 6 of these. Let me see if I have, I still have some cling wrap, possibly. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and do them all. I don't know that it's actually saving time for me to do this way for you guys. And this mixture makes about 12, which we seem to have. So I think one may be a little punier. Let me get that spatula. Just going to rinse it, dry it off, because we don't want to add any moisture right now to our mixture. And I'm just going to scrape out any of the stuff I can get out from here and put on that last one. It'll make this easier to clean and mean I haven't really wasted anything, which makes me happy. So if that makes you happy, that's what you should do too. Okay? There's going to be a lot of dirty dishes today. All right. So here's the other, I've got my little water. I've got these guys. I'm going to move them over so I have some space to work in. These guys are a little light, so if I see some that are a little heftier, I'm going to take a little bit and put on those. Okay, I have some paper towels here because when I wet my hands a little bit to get some of the stick off, I'm going to need to dry them. If it's really sticky and it's doing better if you have water on your hands, you totally can keep doing that. The other thing is you can either cut some aluminum foil. I have, and I put this on the Amazon list. This is just that food service stuff So it makes it way easier. If I can find the end that's supposed to come up. Woo! So it's already cut for me. All right. Now another thing, and I'll go ahead and get this. So I already have about 1.5 cups of water in an Instant Pot liner because we're going to steam these, okay? If all these fit or not is going to be exciting. So there's different things we can use. You could use a steamer basket like this. We are going to use this cool steamer basket that I love. So I'll let you see it from the front too. I just got this and it's awesome. So I am actually thinking of maybe getting 2 because I think they're that awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do, we'll do this first. And we can, so it should be Play-Doh-y enough that it doesn't just glomp and melt away. See how it's got its own little consistency? Just want to give myself a little bit of space to work in. And again, if you find that it's getting too sticky, you can wet your hands and wet the dough if it helps. See, like that helped a little bit? Just make sure that you're not introducing so much that it starts sticking to everything. We're just going to make little cigar shapes. Okay. So then I'm going to take my foil. I'm going to put a piece of my parchment. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So the way I like to do it is to first wrap this up. And this may not match. So it's not enough. It's okay. It's okay if it's not perfect. See how there's a line in between here? It's still going to be fine. Trust me. Then I'm not rolling it super tight, but I'm not rolling it super loose. Find the end, twist, find the end, twist. I think we might be able to. So I'm sticking it down in here. We're going to kind of line them up and put them on top of each other. Okay. Actually, with this dough today, I'm finding a little bit of water and not drying off my hands works best. See how that's getting smooth? So I like that. Okay. Could you do all of these and then do this? Absolutely. I like doing it this way. So that's why I do it. You guys may hear Max. I think that Cheryl may be, I don't know, is doing something. Perhaps taking Max on some place he would like to go. Okay, so I'm sticking that down in here. Okay, let's get another one. And you know, perfection is way overrated. And I can guarantee you, if you give somebody a gluten-free sausage, they don't care if it's perfect. They're like, a gluten-free vegan sausage? Are you kidding me? Okay, so my hands are a little sticky now, so I'm washing them and drying them. Oh, Diane, I don't think I knew you were from Louisiana. You guys will have to tell me if you like my andouille spice blend or not. I'm always looking for a little, you know, critique here or there. Wet my hands, getting some of this. And Joanne is saying cooking would, I'm reading it to you instead of showing you because I'm trying to get less gunk on my computer. And my hands are full of Italian sausages. But she's saying it would be easier if her pantry and cupboard were more organized. And I will tell you it's true. So like I have a giant flour drawer in this kitchen island, and without it, my life would be really hard. So I can try and stack them in this way. So see how it's going one way, then I'm stacking them on top another way. And I have made a lot of sausages this week. So my sausages may get made a little bit faster than your first batch, and that's okay. Really, it's okay. Another thing that's kind of cool about doing these sausages, so there is gluten-free vegan sausage, but there's not gluten-free vegan oil-free sausage. So there's Beyond Meat sausages that have pea protein. They also have a lot of coconut oil. So if you eat coconut oil, you, my friend, are good to go. Let's see if we can, we'll see if you can see from this side too. But there's just no oil-free game in town that doesn't have gluten. And in fact, most sausages that are vegan have gluten because wheat gluten makes an amazing sausage. And that's why I went ahead and gave you the andouille one in case some of you, I know all of you are not gluten sensitive or gluten intolerant or celiac. So if you wanted to try that, because we did use the seitan to make ribs for the barbecue, North Carolina barbecue class. So you might have some in your cupboard. And if you do, I just wanted to help you out. And Marilyn says, I was surprised yesterday when you were able to get all the sausages in your Instant Pot. Yeah, this steamer is a game changer. When I first started making some of these, I actually steamed them on the stove in a big pan, and it was nightmarish. So while you can indeed steam these on your stove, if you have an Instant Pot, it's a little easier because I had to keep adding water because I don't have a really big pan with a colander that fits in there. So I used a flat one, and I kept having to add more and more and more water as I was going along, which made the process take a lot longer too. Okay. Oh, Diane is from Florida. Okay. I did not put the link to the steamer in yesterday's video, but it is in kathyhester.podia.com. When you log in, then you go to this class. There's a link with all the Amazon links, and I put a bunch of steamers and stuff in there. And I put a link to the size papers size aluminum foil I'm using. They are not paper. They are aluminum foils. Foiled again. Yes, I did. Yes, I did say that. And we'll see if we get all 12 of these in here. I'm not so sure, but we'll see. I did it before. Perhaps I can do it again. Yeah, Beyond Meat is very expensive, so I think you get about 4 links, and it's about $9. And when you're getting some of these flours and things, if you don't have them already, it will be an investment, but you're not going to use all the flours. You will be able to make a lot of batches if you get all the ingredients. And like as far as the flours go, and you can reuse those in the other sausage and hot dog recipes that we're going to do today. Yeah, and Beyond Meat is delicious. It's a little oily. Like, we use it every once in a while in something, especially we were doing the brats. That's one of the reasons why I really wanted to do a nice, fresh Polish sausage. Still not sure all these are going to fit or not. And if they don't, I'll just steam them with some others. I think this is the biggest batch. Why do some sausage recipes do 12 and others maybe do 7? because I start out with some wet ingredients that I have and I go until it's Play-Doh shaped. So in case you ever wondered that, that would be why. You might be like, why doesn't she just make everything the same? Because I'm not starting with the same ingredients. So, and I have made so many sausages this week, you guys. The freezer is bursting. That's also why I'm choosing to make certain sausage spice blends today instead of others, is that I have some of those. Let's see if we can fit that. Maybe we can fit them in. It's going to depend on how fat I rolled them, and I'm rolling these a little fatter and less long. So you could, once you find out what fits, we're also steaming in 6-quart Instant Pots. If you have an 8-quart, you'll have a little more room. And I know this will fit in an 8-quart. I don't think they have a larger steamer that's particularly for an 8-quart, but maybe I'll check that out after the class. Now these are going to steam for about 45 minutes. You can kind of get away with, I think we're going to work. You can kind of get away with 35. And typically what I do is I call it curing. It's not really curing, but they're going to be really wet and wet on the inside. So usually I like to let them cool down in the wrappings. So I will open up one and we'll take a look at it then. And then maybe near the end, depending on how long everything goes, you might get to see one that's been cured for a while. I do have some in the fridge too that I can show you, so you can get an idea what the difference is. And when these come out, they're not ready to eat. So could you eat them? Yes. Will they be super appetizing? No. It's not like with Beyond Meat, you have to cook it and render that coconut fat, or it'll be really gross. This won't be really gross, but the texture is going to be nicer if you air fry them, if you cut them into coins and put them in a skillet, something like that should work really well. But I mean, it's up to you. If you like them the way they are, I still probably would put it in an air fryer for 5 minutes to get a nice crust on the outside. And Joanne, I know we had talked about maybe doing rice paper on them, and I just don't think that we're going to have time to do that. But I will do it on a live next week, and then I'll add it to the class. Because I kind of ran out of time to make all the things. So yeah, Beyond Meat is not healthy. It's not healthy. And it's okay if it works for you and doesn't do anything horrible. If you want to use it as a treat, I think that's fine personally. If it doesn't fit into your diet, I'm not trying to encourage you to make it work either though. So do understand that. I think it's really important. Okay. This is all messy and sticky. I feel like I've had arts and crafts class over and over and over again. Okay. So I'm going to try and get to this Instant Pot in the corner. Okay. Drop this in. And we'll look at it from above too. Okay. I'm just trying to see if anything needs to be packed down. This is really cool because it just lays down on here. We'll know if it's sealed. So we're good to go. So I'm going to put it on pressure cook. And we're just going to do 40 minutes. Chances are good I'll be in the middle of something anyhow. And start. Okay. I'm trying to figure out where we can put all the things. Okay, that one has some water in it. Try not to block too much of this, but I have, haven't I? This way. That's better. Okay, awesome. So we've got those going. I want to next do the beet and carrot rice patties. Rice patties. Links. We're making links today. All right. So we'll do these in the food processor so you can see that. Stick these here. See how far I can move. You guys can't see over here, but it is appliance mayhem. There we go. You can see that pretty good. All right. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently because I'm doing it in the food processor. So normally what I would do is take our beets and carrots and smash them. This is going to take care of that. I don't have to worry about it. So I'm going to we're going to make andouille sausage. Oh, the temperature is high. It's always high pressure unless I say otherwise, which in my hundreds of recipes, I think I've said 5 times. So, but thank you for clarifying that. It's always on high pressure. And so on the pressure cooker setting. So for this one, I'm going to use the andouille spice blend. Probably going to use most or all of it. So we're going to go ahead. I've got 1½ cups of cooked chickpeas. And notice how I've drained everything again. This is old refrigerator rice. So this is very dry. If you're using fresh rice, you may have to up the dry ingredients, and that's just going to be okay. So let's go ahead and pulse these for a little bit. Let you see from the front. Okay. You can pulse, or you can just, oh, there we go. I prefer doing this with chickpeas and rice because it's still going to have some good textures, not just going to puree all the way down quite. We're still going to add some more things in, but like right now it still needs to go more because my rice is so dry. Okay? And what I used was, this is leftover long grain basmati rice. And yes, Joanne, these are the ones that you saw yesterday on the live, for sure. Oh, I'm sorry, Diane. You are asking me, what temperature should the air fryer be at? Anywhere from 375 to 400 is fine. I just, honestly, sometimes I don't even change it. I look at for 5 minutes, see if it's right, cook for 5 minutes more, but probably somewhere around 375 to 400. Okay, I'll let you see in here, it's just a wee bit better. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in these cooked carrots and beets that I've drained fairly well, not perfectly, you know, and it's okay. Because again, and actually while I'm over here, I'm going to wash my favorite push-in spatula. I guess this is now my veggie sausage spatula. And then we'll come over with some of something big and hearty and heavy like this is going to be more helpful. I'm also going to go ahead and get some of the dry ingredients. I'm going to be using, I think yesterday I used arrowroot starch, so we can use arrowroot starch again. We've got chickpea and oat flour again. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and some salt or salt substitute, depending on what you want to do. So I put in about 2 teaspoons of salt. You could use less. You could do it to taste, or you could use that generic salt substitute we're talking about. I am probably going to put in about a 1/4 cup of andouille sausage spice blend. Thereabouts. Definitely thereabouts. Maybe a 1/4 cup plus a teaspoon or 2, or a tablespoon. So let's go ahead and get that mixed up before we add any more dry ingredients. And I'll come to the front so you guys can see that happening. Let's see. Now I'm going to need to come in here with probably a better spatula than this, but this will probably work, to make sure we can get all this mixed up, because our wet ingredients are going to the bottom. Our wet ingredients are our veggies, because they still had liquid in them. Okay. And there's still some things that are not chopped up yet. I'll let you see what I'm doing from the top. Oh, this weather's killing me. Okay. See how it's starting to fold in? You guys see that? Okay. Got that? We still, there may end up being a few veggie chunks, but that's okay. We don't care. All right, so now we're going to add some of our dry ingredients. We're going to put in, because this is fairly moist. It's more moist than our other one was. You can use canned beets. I don't see any reason why you couldn't use canned beets. What I did though is I steamed the carrots and the beets in the Instant Pot for about 10 minutes. So I just used fresh. Okay, we want to do 3/4 of a cup. Where's a 1/4 cup mixture? Here we go. So I want to make sure I use all the flax seeds are the things that super help get extra moisture out. Okay, and that's 3/4 of a cup. Then I'm going to use 3/4 of a cup of arrowroot. Okay, or you could use tapioca starch. I know some people don't like to use tapioca starch. I'm not really sure why, but I wanted to just double check. Honestly, you might even be able to use potato starch, but I think that would start to affect the flavor a little bit. I'm not big on team potato starch, but I could change my mind at any given moment. We're going to do a 1/4 cup of oat flour. And here's another tip. Don't buy oat flour. And we're probably going to have to mix some of this around too. I just ground this up in the Vitamix. You can ground it up in a regular blender. It works fine. Okay, and then we're going to use a 1/2 cup of chickpea flour. And I think I'm going to get this mixed in first, and then we'll add the 1/2 cup of chickpea flour in. And again, because the wet mixture is at the bottom, I'm probably going to have to do that scooping it around again. We'll see. Ooh, it's kind of doing okay. Yeah, there we go. It's really blending well. So far, so good. Yeah. Let me let you see what's happened so far. So see how it's not got all of it in yet, but that's okay. We're not, our expectations, and see it's still very wet. I'm going to go ahead and add in my 1/2 cup of chickpea flour. And you could use soy flour instead of this. We could use quinoa flour instead of this. We just want to try and use flours that have a higher protein if possible. It just makes it better. And it's going to make it hold together better. Okay, thought I could. Potato starch could probably get gummy. It's not my first choice, and I'm not putting it in the recipes, but in a pinch, you probably could get away with some of it. But, you know, and Diane, you could totally use canned beets. And you could use some leftover veggies that you had from dinner, too. I'm trying to hurry this puppy up, but it doesn't. We'll see. It's pretty full, so I got to see if it's messing around with something. Oh. I may have it too full. There we go. No, it did it. Yes. It needed a little help, which is better not to do. Yeah, okara flour, absolutely. Soy flour, okara flour. That's something I'm going to try next, is taking some of my okara, put it in the dehydrator, and blending it to a flour. I would think that almond flour might work too, but I haven't tried it yet. We'll see what we need to do. Yeah, this time we gotta do some stirring around. So I want to get, again, as it starts making a dough, it's going to be thicker. And even if this, at this point, if we were like, this is too much to deal with, I can go ahead and put it in a bowl and mix it. Because we're probably going to go ahead and transfer it to a bowl at some point anyhow. Yeah, it's doing good now. You guys can see it there. Okay. So see, by now a lot of the bits and pieces are gone, and it is more of a wet mixture than it might have been had we not put it in the food processor. So again, that is neither good nor bad. It's just something we need to be aware of. And it's going to be a lot easier if I get this mixture out over into a bowl. For me to parcel it out properly. And you're going to have to let your food processor soak. So just know that that is also going to be something that's going to happen. There's not really a choice in that matter. I'm kind of rinsing this off a little bit, but honestly, this is just going to have a little more oomph done to it. Now, if you wanted this not to be red, you could use potatoes instead of beets. I kind of wanted this one to have some red since we had the other one not having a lot of red in it. Our hot dogs are also going to have a good bit of red in them. I'm going to stick this spatula to the water because I'm probably going to use it again for our hot dogs. Okay, here. Sorry, I am short and my counter is long, so that's why sometimes things come out of this. But yeah, there's so many different ways you can do this. So I would recommend that you make one of the recipes I've done. And hopefully in class, I think even here, we'll see if this is, if we end up needing to add some more flaxseed, because it could also be really good for us just to let it sit a half hour. We're not doing that today. But at home, you can go away, and what will happen? Ooh, canned tastes really good. So I'm excited because I'm seeing some gumbo or some jambalaya coming along down the pike with some of this. But it's always going to just depend, you know, like maybe you steam the carrots in a steamer basket above the water versus cooking them in the water, or maybe you didn't drain your sweet potatoes as much as you did last time. So there's going to be some of that. You guys who've taken a lot of classes with me know I'm not as much about precision as I am learning about the process and knowing what you can do to fix it. Because you know what? If it's because, I don't know, the weather was different, so the beets had a different consistency, we can't just go and pick the beets we want all the time. I can't guarantee the beets that come to me are grown in the best environment, at the best temperature, in the best blah, blah, blah. So that's why it's better to know how to do all of this stuff. That's so much more important to me. Okay. All right, let me get my, gonna change out the water in my water bowl. And get some of my foil. I have some water already in this Instant Pot. And I was thinking, I don't know what I'm using in the third one yet, of trying, this is the thing that goes down. Let me see if this fits in the Milty. It does. So you guys can see from where you are now that that fits in there. Just ever so barely. But you've got to test it first. That's super important. We may have to do some things. So let me see how sticky this is. This is pretty sticky. So I think I'm going to add in a little more flaxseed. So I probably put about a 1/4 cup in there. And that should help me get the liquid. So see how my finger is red. Let's see if you can. When I was sticking, a lot was sticking to me. So that's why we're adding some. Now, we may not have had to do that had we not done it in the food processor, because some of the liquid would be still kind of kept in its own little container. In fact, it could be because of the rice being dry that we would have to add a liquid. And if you need to add a liquid, you could do anything from some of the vegetable cooking water. You could add that. You could add broth. You could just add water. So far, it's a lot harder to get things to firm up. And I haven't had anything that's too firm yet. That doesn't mean it won't happen. Let's see. I want to let that sit for at least a minute or two. And I may go ahead and put in a little bit more. So I probably put in a 1/4 cup or a 1/4 cup and a tablespoon-ish, I think. Let me let you see what I'm seeing. Okay. And I'm just mixing it in. It's easy to mix in. And again, that's because it's a little bit wetter. This one's going to be a little harder to work with, but that's okay. We can do it too. Okay. Let me see if I can. I'm going to see if I can make that a little bit lighter. That's too much. That's too little. Oh well, that's what we got. Those are our two choices right now. Curse you, cloudy weather. Okay, so we're just letting this flaxseed do its thing, absorb. So a lot of times, instead of making a flaxseed egg when I'm cooking something, I will actually just put the flaxseed in because it'll still absorb all that liquid. And that's what we're doing. Flaxseed is great for this. Ground chia seed would be really good for it too. Okay. Gonna take a drink break. Had a mishap. My body's like, finish your breakfast. So if any of you guys made hot dogs or veggie sausages with gluten, because I'd love to know. I'd also love to know if you're having allergies where you are. Okay, so we're going to try one of these, even though best practice would be to let this sit a little bit longer. But it's coming out okay. And I can see, you guys can see there a little bit. So we'll take a couple of these for now. I know, we should let it set longer, but I'm like, we're already an hour and 15 minutes in, and we got 2 hours worth of cooking to go. So I got, that's why I'm going a little bit faster than normal. Okay. So again, I'm gonna wet my hands, especially because these are wet, and that will help it not stick as much. And this is a much more wet mixture. But that doesn't mean it won't work. It just means it's going to be a little bit harder. And I'm hoping while I'm making these three, the others will be kind of soaking it up a little bit more. That's the goal. I wonder, we might be able to just have these sitting like this in the basket around. Oh, and Joanne said she definitely made sausages when she had gluten, when she ate gluten before she was whole food plant-based. So see, even if it is a little bit less firm, like to me, this isn't perfectly ideal, but we're waiting on that. So I'm taking one for the team. It's harder to work with. It's not going to be quite as pretty. But you know what? When I cut these up to be in my jambalaya, nobody's going to care. And if they do, they can eat somebody else's jambalaya and not come to my house. I feel strongly about that. See, this one already feels a little bit better than the other two. Not perfect. Gluten-free sausage isn't about perfection. It's about delicious, yummy food that you can't really get anywhere else. Also, you know, even if you are gluten-free and you don't care about the oils, Beyond Meat only has 2 kinds of sausages. So you can't get every single sausage that you might want. But this way, once you find the mixture you like or you're used to making these, okay, now let's give, oh yeah, see? Now it's definitely thicker. And then the other one is just going to be whatever I can scrape up. Ooh. Okay. All right. So this time we're getting 8 out of these. I think I got 7. And still, the ideal would be to let it sit even a little bit longer. This last one is definitely a little bit squishy-ish. So I'm going to actually sit this by the side. This I also probably added a little bit of too much batter to. Yeah, I think I shouldn't have added that extra dough. We might get a mini sausage out of this. Maybe better than a mini sausage. Okay. Can I use the paper like it was a sushi roll to mold it in if it's a little bit wetter like these are? Yeah, the spice mixes are going to be really awesome. I will tell you that right now. So I'm always excited about making new spice blends. And I had a lot of fun doing these. Cheryl actually said when she came upstairs, if I was doing, and let me just go back, if I was doing this, I would have let it wait a little bit longer. Also, I might have decided to still add a little bit more flaxseed. But instead, to make up for that, what I'm going to do is cook these a little bit longer. Since these are the second ones, they can probably go for an hour. So we're just going to cook them longer and hope that they set up that way. And chances are really good they will. I could also have put extra flour in my hands to work into it. There are a lot of different ways we could have done this. And again, this probably wouldn't have been as wet because when we're breaking everything down, so see how that one's not quite round, we're sushiizing it, right? Let's just take it around and make it round like that. Ooh, Diane got a grinder. Yay, spice grinders are the way. I love them and I love making my own mixes. It's really awesome. And we are going to make, I don't see any way how we're not going to have enough time to make flour and spice mixes while the hot dogs are cooking because we still have one more mix to get in there and get done. Just try and get it as close as you want. And honestly, it's okay if you get some dough on this foil. It's not going to hurt anything. You're just going to have to clean your Instant Pot a little bit better. So really, that's also not a big deal at all. Get these up here. So the batters and doughs themselves aren't that hard to make. It's one of those things that's like, that's too much work. It just seems like too much work, but it's really not too much work. Let me see if I put this guy here. You can kind of see what I'm getting ready to do. It does take some time, but it's kind of like a fun thing that you could do. This would be a fun thing to do with kids, for sure. And if you notice, I actually, for each one of these, I went ahead and just had out a new clean cutting board. So I don't have to try and wash the cutting boards and things in between. I also, in general, wouldn't recommend you making all the things in one day unless you're doing like a big stock up. Like if that's something you do is cook all day and make a bunch of things to put in the freezer, you could do all of these. But in general, I would only do one. Get these guys over here too. I'm going to rinse my hands. Because it is kind of a lot. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to overwhelm yourselves. Here's my towel. With trying to do all the things at first. If you've been making stuff like this, if you're a more advanced cook, then sure, do what you want. But if you're kind of newer, take your time, let it all work out okay. All right, so let's get the steamer in here. Let's make sure our hot dogs are gonna fit like this. Nope, or I mean our sausages. So we gotta gonna lace them across this way. Got to make sure that they're not, there we go, not coming over the lip. This guy can just fit in like that. This isn't really gonna come together on this, which is fine, but it's still gonna help us get that basket out. I don't think I put that in. I'm trying to find where that lid was. I know I just had it in my hand. I am truly looking for the top for this Instant Pot. Maybe it's, yep, it's still here from where, nope. This is that one. That one is this one. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure the handles don't get caught up. And I'm gonna go ahead and cook this on high pressure for an hour. And this is the Milthy 2.0, so I'm going to do the pressure release as quick. So it's going to scare me. It's okay. I'm going to move our food processor out of the way. So we won't be using that. We are going to be using this. Let's see if I can. It's hard being 5 foot with a 3 foot counter, 3 foot wide counter. Apologize for coming over here, but it's better for all of us right now. There we go. I'm fine. That was just exciting. Okay. Now we're going to make hot dogs. Do you guys have any questions yet? And if you're watching the replay, if you have a question, you can put it in Podia. If you are watching this live, don't forget, when this is done, I will upload it. It usually takes, depending on how bad the internet is, sometimes it takes 24 hours for it to come up. Last time it took an hour. So it'll be up as soon as I can get it up. But you'll go to kathyhester.podia.com. You have to log in or it will tell you to buy the class. I don't want you to buy the class. I want you to just come back and get in there. You can get the recipes, rewatch the video. You can get these Amazon links that I'm telling you about because I made like a whole little, it's almost like a pin board of stuff from this class. I will try and put that OXO baking sling in there. It is awesome. It's usually around 15 bucks, and I think it's very well worth it. All right. So I've cooked the vegetable ingredients already because, as you can see, I've cooked 4 or 5 different things in the Instant Pots before we even started this class. I've washed these a lot. So before I do that, I have those set up with water. I'm going to set this up with some water in the bottom of it. It just has to be between a half a cup and a cup. And whenever we're using the pressure cooker function on our Instant Pot, we have to have water in it. That's how it comes up to pressure. There's not really any exceptions for that. Yes, this is my fancy Instant Pot with the handles. And there are a couple of other things we could choose to use in here. So I've got like a little basket like this. This would be harder, but I could layer things up pretty easy and use tongs to take them out. Though the sausages and hot dogs will be soft, so you're gonna, make some marks with that. Or if you have something like this, I don't even know if this fits in here. Sorta. This sort of fits in there, and it barely has a little nubbing, so it should come up. So if you have something like this, I think that's from something else that I've had before. It's hard to keep up with all those things. But I think what I'm going to do is use this and layer things across. So you don't have to have the new sling. You don't have to have one thing or another. You can make it work with what you have. We just want to steam and layer things as much as we can. Okay, let me see if I missed. Oh, I did miss some questions. Joanne says when she makes veggie sausages, she makes a bunch of one recipe. So you could totally do doubles or triples of these batches. I like to keep them about where they are because that's about what I can manage. My wrists are a little bit weak, so that's what I can manage. So think about that too. And I do like to make dinner with some and then throw some in the freezer. So we are out of freezer room, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with the 80 bazillion batches of sausage I have. Yeah, and it is awesome to have soy flour in there. I think that's going to be great. Okay. How are you guys doing? I feel like life is very exciting. So these are the hot dogs. These are the hot dog spices. So we don't have a spice blend because I made the recipe this way. And if you had something like this, you could put it in there too, though really with holes is going to be better. You're going to get a better proper steam on things, and I like that better. Okay. Let's see what I got here. I need my masher and try this spatula. Okay, so these have been draining a while. So this is the vegetable mixture. And in this recipe, I had originally done the dry and the wet separate. I've kind of like let that go. I'm not as concerned. So you use it how you want to. Like right now, I got enough dirty dishes. I don't need to have any more dirty dishes. I'm fine. Okay. So all these got cooked for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to take this masher and mash them. Now, one of the things I say is you need to pay particular care to the beets because you may have to come back and mush them a little bit longer. If you have a heavy duty, I know Marilyn has a masher like this that also has a spring. And I did not put that, I'll try and put that on the Amazon list too. Because actually, I was thinking after this class, I'm going to wish I had one. So this has sweet potatoes, regular white potatoes, carrot, and beets. So that's the veggies in our veggie dogs. So honestly, I had had a veggie dog at the Worcester, Massachusetts Veg Fest. And it was gluten-free, and it was full of veggies. And it had all of these veggies in it. I used that as the inspiration to try and get this right. Now, if you are gluten-free, you may or may not know, depending on what you are able to eat, is that Light Life hot dogs, you don't need to see all this, Light Life hot dogs are now have gluten in them again. They've been gluten-free for years. So actually we have a pack that's now just Cheryl's because we keep them if we're going to somebody's house for a barbecue or something like that. So you may need a veggie dog recipe more than you think you do if you're gluten-free because they are even harder to come by. Now, the one thing that will happen if you do this in the food processor, if you do, I would add the potatoes last or mash the potatoes and add them last because in the food processor they will become a little extra gluey. Though, honestly, I'm not sure we'd really even care at this point. And it's okay that some chunks of veggies are in there. I just don't want to see, you know, pieces like chunks, big chunks like we cooked of beets. Yep, and Marilyn, I have extra inserts too. So actually we have, except for this fancy one, the Duo Evo Plus, I only have one of the ones that has the handles. But the Milty and the Instant Pot ones are interchangeable, which is helpful. Okay, so let me let you see what this looks like. Okay, can get any of this off that we can. And that's the veggie glue, our wet mixture for our hot dogs. I would not skip using beets, though you probably could use anything else because hot dogs are pretty red. So that's why I think they should be there. You may think differently, and that is also fine. Okay. Jackie's leaving. Have a good bridal shower. Okay. So we've got that going. Now let's start adding in some of our dry ingredients. So I'm going to start bringing them over here. Brown rice flour. You could use teff flour, you could use ivory or dark teff flour. We are going to use oat flour and tapioca starch. And some nutritional yeast, which we're actually using as flavoring. So we're going to use a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. And if you can't use nutritional yeast, you could put in some mushroom seasoning or something like that if you wanted to. It's really up to you. Okay, let's do a 1/2 cup of brown rice flour. We're going to do 1/2 cup of teff flour. Teff is really good and has some nice protein in there. But you could use quinoa flour instead. I think quinoa flour is a little cheaper. We're going to do a half a cup of oat flour. And as wet as this mixture is, I'm just going ahead and starting and doing it by the recipe. That is a good question. Probably not, and we'll talk about it. Possibly we will. I did do a breakfast sausage that's the okara sausage, and I put it in the molds, and it was a hot mess. But I'm trying to decide if it was a hot mess because I filled them too full and stacked them too high. It is possible that that is why. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add in, we can do salt or salt substitute, 2 teaspoons. And I'm using more in this because a hot dog is a nitrate containing substance. So it's seriously got some salt stuff going on. You can use less if you want to. We're going to use 2 teaspoons of marjoram. Move some of this stuff over so I can get this going. We're going to use a teaspoon of granulated garlic. I'm going to do a little extra. I like it a little bit extra garlicky. We're going to do 1 teaspoon of onion powder. And honestly, we want our hot dogs fairly neutral compared to maybe what we're doing in a sausage. We're going to do some coriander, 1 teaspoon, and 1 teaspoon of paprika. Okay, so I'm going to start working this in. Actually, I guess probably this overhead would be easier. I'm going to start working it all in. And I'm probably going to end up using my hands. And see, as you start squeezing through, see, you probably, from looking at it, from sight only, it looked like it was going to be too dry. As I'm really getting in there, not looking too dry now, is it? And again, with all these doughs, it's good to let them sit for just a little while to kind of absorb some of that. Like liquid that's in there, the flax is going to like take it up. The flours are going to kind of be like, hey, I got you. Let's see if I can get some of this off of my hand. The hot dogs were actually the first recipe that I did that was kind of gluten-free like this. It's in Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking for Your Instant Pot. And it does have a few more ingredients. I did experiment a lot recently with maybe using a little less and seeing what happens. I think one of the mistakes I made with the molds, and I'll show you the molds, and maybe we'll put a couple in. I think I did these 1/3 of a cup. We'll try some 1/3 and maybe some 1/4. And I do have some hot dog molds, so I'll show you those too. So we can look at that while we're waiting for our dough to kind of, and that's the milthy. If you hear it spewing, it just takes it longer to get up to pressure, but I'll double check it. Make sure nothing's amiss. Something may be amiss. So I'm checking this out. No, it seems to be okay now. Yeah. All right. Yay! Okay. So we're letting this get kind of soak up some of that liquid. And yes, we were going to look at the molds. Joanne said she has the molds. And the molds are super cute. Now they are going to be tiny for the hot dogs. So they're like this. And then I even got some breakfast sausage ones. These are also really hard to clean. So if you use these, I want you to clean them right then and there, or sit them in a big sink of hot soapy water. Else, I'm not sure if it's going to work. These, I was thinking also, I got these to make maybe some little date caramel candy bars. That may be in our future. So they're the little ones like this, and I have those. I'm trying to think of where to put this stuff. Move this. There we go. Okay, and so the ones, this is the one I put on the list, and so it comes as two. It has a covering, so you cover it and then it can stain. So what we ended up doing to make all these things fit is we had them, I can't remember if we had them like this, and it just, I think I had too much batter in here, and the batter was a little wet. So maybe we'll try both. We'll see if we can do both and maybe put one of these on top of there. I'm thinking this is about a tablespoon and a half. So this is quite a small dog, as in hot dog. And we can go ahead and do a couple of those. Okay, I'm trying to remember if it was like a heaping tablespoon. Or if it was half. We'll be finding out shortly. Okay. Oh, I need my water too, don't I? Let me get some fresh water. Okay. All right. And I know with this, a lot of times they're talking about making something soft and putting it in here using a piping sheet, but I just haven't experimented with it enough. Let's see if that's about right. Could probably use a little more than that, but I did feel like I overfilled it last time. So let's try it this way. Actually, the batter's doing pretty good already. The milthy's making a little bit of a weird noise, which makes me slightly nervous. I haven't used it in a while. But if it continues to concern me, I'm going to just switch it out with the other one. Now here's the other thing I will say that I did is that I didn't let these kind of, like I said, cure or dry. I think these need to dry even more because none of the paper is going to take up any of that moisture. And I found that even with the covers, there was some wetness that was in there. So I wonder, and maybe what I'll try is actually covering it with foil. Well, I'll try covering the top one with foil. Because I know one person was asking me about a no waste way to do this, to do it without foil. And that is a little bit hard. And then you just make sure you're sitting this down to where it fits. You can go ahead and do the second one. And we'll give it a go. Again, my experiment last night was not great, just so you know. But we're also going to do some in the regular wrapped way. This batter is better than the other batter I was using yesterday, though. I will say that. Or dough, or whatever we're calling this. See, it's like cooking meets arts and crafts. And Joanne says when I make seitan, the dough always puffs and then shrinks. And it's a little bit different with this. This is definitely denser, and it's not going to have the same meaty consistency, though it is going to be, you know, dense, which we do want. Get that little bit off of there. Yeah, when you're done, you can eat them just like regular hot dogs. So you can put them on a bun. You can put them with baked beans and make beanie weenies. I've even put them in faux corn dogs. So actually in the gluten-free vegan cooking in your Instant Pot book, I use those little egg molds and I make corn dogs. And I use these hot dogs to do that. And it worked out really, really well. Okay. So again, we'll just sit that there for the moment. Hopefully, our dough is close to ready. And usually when you're doing this at home, especially if you're doing more than one, you've got plenty of time to do it later. Sorry, I got a message on my computer. You have plenty of time to let it dry, do something else, chop up some veggies, you know, do some crazy things like that. All right, so now I'm going to get my aluminum foil back out. got my papers for my sausages. And I think in here I said use 1/3 cup measure. Let's see. A little less than 1/3. I think I'm going to try hefty 1/4 cups, which is probably a little less than 1/3. And I just use this cup measure to try and get them to be kind of consistent. If they're not perfectly consistent, please don't fret over it. It's good enough. You're making homemade sausages. You should just be happy with that. I know I will be happy when I come to your house and you have a nice gluten-free hot dog for me at your picnic or cookout or whatever you're having. And I can pretty much guarantee you that anybody else who can't have gluten is going to love you just for trying. And they're not going to go, why is my hot dog half an ounce or a tablespoon less than that hot dog? And if they do, you have my permission to tell them to go eat somewhere else. I will tell you that right now, because you will have done a lot of work and they should be grateful. Okay, move that out of the way. It's going to be a 4-dishwasher kind of day. Now, one thing I am going to go ahead and do, I'm going to take just a quick break. Yes, and they are twice cooked. So Diane, with the hot dogs, you're also going to want to heat those up, maybe in a saute pan or something like that too. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open up this Instant Pot. This is the one that had the red lentil sausage, the original one that we did. So I'm going to let that happen. I'm going to move the steaming basket out and put it on a hot plate. I'm going to have a sneak of my yogurt. Here's some of my breakfast. Have breakfast with me. I didn't get everything done in time to finish my breakfast too. But I did have a big cup of iced coffee with soy milk, so I'm not starving. That's for sure. Let's see, am I missing anything else? Just gonna let this wait a minute, because this way this stuff can kind of be curing and it'll be good to show you by the time this stuff is going in. And the reason is like, even if you get, let's say, if you eat gluten and you get a tofurkey sausage, you're still going to heat that up, right? You're going to do something with it because it'll be kind of slimy if you don't. This is kind of what we're looking at here. That's all. Okay. I'm like, is this ever going to go down? Is it ever going to go down? I would just very much like it to do so that then I can get my hands dirty again. These were cooking for 35 minutes. Also, I'll just take a moment and make sure nobody else bought at the last minute, because somebody bought right before we came here. She could not see the chat and isn't able to chat. Debbie, if you're watching this now, I'm not sure what to tell you. Caleb, if you're still on, do you know why she might not be able to see the chat? I'm wondering if you're logged in or not. You say you usually are able to. It might have logged you out, is what I'm thinking. Let me see if anybody else Okay, nobody else is yelling at me. Yay. Yes. Okay. And I'm just going to sit this over here. It's best to use a pot holder when you're picking up the hot things, though I don't always do it. And there is some water. Some water is going to come off of there, which is fine. Let's cancel that out. I'm just going to push that off to the side. We're just going to let these cool right here for a little bit. So that just means I know one thing's doing what I want it to do. And that makes me happy. Now let's finish making some hot dogs. Okay. And Marilyn says she has a big cup of my chai concentrate with soy milk. You guys, if you like chai, you can get that recipe on plantbasedinstantpot.com. What did I not do? I did not wet my hands. Do I regret it? Yes, I do. I do regret it indeed. In case you were wondering if you might regret it at some point. Okay. And in fact, if those aren't all the way cooked, I can show you some of those from the fridge. But the hot dogs will be, this is the only game in town. And you can make these as long as you want. I kind of want them to be as uniform as possible. But again, we also have to look at my papers. Let's make them a little bit less. I'm going for footlongs, but I didn't make papers for footlongs. So that's not going to happen. And so as I'm pushing this over, I can push the dough around so it is more even. So you get that chance. And then here, like when you're using a sushi mat, you can kind of do that same thing. Okay, and we'll put those in here. I'll let you see from above again. I know you've been watching me roll so many things. Oh, it's the water. That's in here. I'm going to move that where you guys aren't having to see that. Because that was a little too psychedelic, I think. That was not helpful. Okay, we've got our little hot dogs here. Or you could even just mold it right there on your paper. That's another way you could do it. This one's a little light. Joanne says, we all cook. We can take a look at that funky water. I know, it's just not super appetizing. I do agree, especially now that it's kind of murky beet water. It looks like perhaps I murdered someone over here. You haven't seen Cheryl. Just kidding. I did not murder Cheryl, I promise. Though you know how it is when you're married. Sometimes you're like, but No, Cheryl's awesome. And in fact, Cheryl's the one who came up and put batteries in when I couldn't find the batteries. She is always super helpful to all of us. And I'm actually really excited because she's doing, I don't know if you guys know Robbie and them. They do the Whole Food Plant-Based Mastering Diabetes course. And that's what she's doing, which is super cool. In fact. So it's like all day, all day. It's like a 12-hour thing. So just when you thought things never got longer than my classes, now you know they do. Okay. I think I can fit 4 in there. And I'm thinking we might put the hot dogs and steam, or the sausage maker ones. They're all hot dogs. I'm thinking we might put those in that Instant Pot we already just finished using. It's funny, this class has already been 2 hours and I have just made, it takes a while to roll all these, but the thing is, I was going to maybe just do a few of each, but I don't know that it would have helped really with like making it the perfectly timed class. So we're doing it this way. But I tell you what, right about this moment, because I also made 2 batches of sausage yesterday. I'm ready to not roll sausages for a while, and with all the sausages that I have, I don't think I'm going to have to for a while. Though I am thinking of doing some other gluten-free kind of meaty substitutes. They just probably won't be rolled up into links. We will do some other kind next. I'm like, no more link rolling for me for just a little while. And Diana's saying, oh, that's awesome. I can't put the comments up right now. Joanne is saying, look, when we're married, we threaten, but we rarely follow through. Indeed, indeed. And Diane says, when you make the spice blends, can you store them in baggies and put by other spices? Absolutely, just like any spice blend you buy. And we're going to be using things like dry spices. So you saw the blends that I used were all dry spices. So all my spice blends are like that. Now we could make something different than that, but we're not gonna. I store everything. You could get those little mason jars, like the small jam ones, and you could use those. You could use baggies. You could use just anything. The most important thing is to keep them airtight so that they don't get, moisture doesn't get introduced to them. That's the most important part. So they don't need refrigeration. And in fact, because you know, last week we did the mez meats, right? Or not last week, last class. And so I made the kibbe mixture and the kafka mixture. All of those, it's just the same kind of idea, that there are dry spice blends that you've then just used that. And one of the reasons I like giving you guys spice blends is so if you have leftover kibbe, maybe you don't want to make kibbes, but any of these spice blends you could put on cauliflower, like cauliflower rice. And you could then, let's go back up here. You could then just saute it and have that be ground kibbe. It's not exactly kibbe, or andouille spice. You could use it for whatever you want to, just like I've done that with chorizo a lot before. So it's just another way to do things. So if you have that, then if you have something plain, a plain mixture, you can spice it up to something really good without really having to do much effort. And I just love spice blends too. I love making them and I love using them. If you wanted to get some sausage blends, you could go somewhere like Savory Spice Blend and buy them, or Penzeys. Just be careful, some of the breakfast sausage spice blends are going to have honey in them. So just be aware and what your limitations are. Also, most of the sausage spices that you buy pre-made are going to have salt in them. So if you're on a salt-free diet, it's much easier just to make your own. Okay. We're so close to being done. I cannot wait. Is that bad? Like this is 8 sausages blends that I've made in the past 6 days. So that is why I'm happy it is over. I wasn't happy till today. I actually cooked all day long yesterday testing things, which is why you have some test recipes too. And I still have a little bit of the okara mix that we'll probably look at too. I was going to try and do those in the sausage one. Okay, let me get some of this out of here, and I'm done. I feel like the happiest person ever. I need a massage. That's for sure too. Let me get a little extra water in case I need it. Okay. You wipe some of this off. The hot dogs usually steam about 35 minutes. Let's get this stuff out of here. Okay, so we'll start with the one I was going to do to begin with. Yeah, it is totally cheaper to make your own spice blends. And you can get spice jars on Amazon. Let me see what else. I'm trying, I keep my old spice bottles, and I clean those out. These are the big jelly jars if you want to make bigger batches. These little Rubbermaid containers are awesome and inexpensive. Can you guys see that okay? Those are the little tiny ones. You can get these ball spice jars, which are really the jelly jar size, and they cost more. So you don't have to do that. Like here's the little jelly jar ones that I'm talking about. Those are usually the cheapest, and they stack. So it's really easy to do. I'm going to rearrange for a second. Okay. Alrighty. And then let's look at this. Okay, now I can pull this all the way up. Okay, so this should lower down. If it doesn't, we'll figure something else out. But no, see, it works. We just got to make sure we don't get this caught up here, that we get it. So I'm going to kind of come at it from here. There we go. And it's closed really well. So I'm going to cook for 35 minutes on high pressure. Okay. And we'll see if that works. Now I'm going to try these two in the other Instant Pot. You don't need 80,000 Instant Pots because you would just be doing this once. You also wouldn't be trying to do it all within 3 hours. So you don't need that same amount of whatever. So I think what I'm going to do is take this flat one, put it in here, And then let's layer this guy this way. And see, what's happening is, though, things are going to get in through these holes. I don't like that. So I am going to take one piece of foil and put over the top one. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to see if I can foil them together. I wonder if I put them that way. Just so the water doesn't get in. I think if you are on a zero waste plan, you could get away with it. But they are going to be wetter. So like this curing phase that we're doing by letting these cool. And sometimes if they're still overly wet, I will let them dry for a little bit on the on a cutting board. Trying to think of an easier way to get these back up. Yeah, this would be easier than what I was going to use. So this is the OXO baking sling, which I have more than one of. Yes, I know. It seems excessive until I'm doing a class. So this will be much easier to bring these back up. Also, it has some room that's going to keep them off the water. And that top is here. And you might be like, you didn't wash in between. Well, basically none of that water got on our food. There we go. So I'm going to pressure cook those for 35 minutes. Okay. Move this guy over here. And I think we've got enough room to do the other things we're going to do. Oh, hey, Sherry. I'm sorry you lost the internet. If you have some questions, obviously you can rewatch this as much as you want to once it gets back up. And it will be up by tomorrow. If the internet is good, it will be up today. But I have no control over how good or bad the internet is at any given time. Okay, that still has some more time. I'm going to get a few of these things out of the way. So what do I want to do first? I actually bought an extra grinding bottom for my Ninja. They don't have these anymore. And they don't have these tops anymore. But what you going to do? So I'm going to have to probably grab some of the spices that we're going to make. I think I want to make another Polish sausage and another andouille. We might make a breakfast sausage too. And that should be helpful. We can give these a couple more minutes. And then I'm trying to think of what else I have. I do have some of the dough from the okara sausage that I made. So let me show you that too. So see how it's gotten more doughy? The one thing I didn't put in here was flaxseed, and I think it would have done better with flaxseed. With flaxseed and being steamed with holes, it was too wet. So honestly, I think if you just added flaxseed to make it a little more clay-like, this would work just fine. And that's in your packet as one. I gave you a couple that I knew we weren't going to do today. And with the spice blends, I don't put sugar in there. I mean, I don't put salt. One I'm putting sugar in. A couple of them do have sugar, but you can also use date sugar instead. Okay. Let me find the Polish sausage, and then I'll grab all the things we need for it. Or actually the andouilles first, so let's do that. Smoked paprika. I got a whole bunch of backup ones because I made so much stuff that it was a lot. So I refilled a lot of my things. We're going to have some thyme, some oregano, regular oregano, and I'll talk you through the recipe while I'm making it too. We want some black pepper. You can use cayenne or not. I usually err on the side of mild foods because I have a real picky eater. You guys know that. Onion powder. Onion powder. Actually, I'll just take from this granulated garlic. But I found some of these. Some I get these at BJ's, Costco, but they have them at Wegmans. So they didn't have my oregano, and I got that and it was the same price. It was awesome. Smoked paprika, garlic, whole bay leaf. And so here's the thing. We can make a double batch or not. If you're not sure you like a spice blend yet or not, then I would just make it regular. And as you're making it, you get to kind of set your own parameters. I like things spicy. I don't like garlic. You know, anything like that, you get to kind of figure out. So we're going to do a tablespoon of smoked paprika. And it's okay if it's clumpy because we're actually putting it in the spice grinder. So there's no need for me to make effort to take care of that. I'm going to use a teaspoon of granulated garlic, which is here. And when I'm making a blend, I put things in, I smell and taste it, and then I decide what else is needed. And you are most welcome to do the same thing. We are going to, no, I got basil instead of bay leaf. Bay leaves. If you have ground bay leaf, you could use it. But we can also, some of these are tiny, so I'm going to get some that I really would rather not use in a soup because it's going to be hard to find, right? And I'm just going to crumble it a little bit, but the grinder is going to take care of the rest. Here's the thing, you can't ingest a bay leaf because the edges can cut you on the inside. When you grind it, it's okay to ingest bay leaf. So that may be one thing you're like, what is she doing to me? Oh, and it was supposed to be a tablespoon of garlic powder. I, like a crazy person, put a teaspoon. So let's put 2 more in because 3 teaspoons makes a tablespoon. Thought that seemed light. And let me check this Instant Pot really quick. I can't remember if on the lid I moved it back to sealing. Okay, that's good. Okay. Yay! It's good! Okay, so we're going to do 2 teaspoons of onion powder. And we were talking about in the live maybe actually making these powders in a class and doing a dehydrator class. So Marilyn, if you are willing to possibly give me or lend me some recipes or some ideas, because you are the dehydrator queen, then I think we should do it. We're going to put in 2 teaspoons of oregano. And Joanne says that Italian sausage and brats are her favorite. I did not do a brat sausage blend, but I could do that in another thing. I love andouille, and maybe it's because I've never been able to have it. Actually, it would be nice if that actually was. Come on. Come on. There we go. Okay. Then we want to do 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper. Mine is, I'm going to use a little less because I actually ground mine recently from the whole black pepper, so it's pretty strong. And then you can use a half a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, or you could use a little less, or you could use none. Depending on your family and their taste. If you want it spicy, you just go right ahead. Cheryl just cannot take it. So we're just not going to do that at my house, if that makes sense. So then what we're going to do is I'm going to put this on here. And this is just a spice grinder attachment that goes on this Ninja. And again, it's going to be really loud. They're not selling them anymore again. So if they start selling them again, I'll let you guys know. I don't know if you heard me chewing, but yeah, I was totally eating my breakfast. Okay. And especially if it has something spicy, the longer you can let it settle, the better. Also, another thing I'll do is get a very, very lightly damp paper towel that will clean this out in between using different spices. So I'll take a funnel and I'll show you from overhead what I'm doing. So I'm going to try and get as much of that out as I can. I get one of my little teeny tiny spoons. So I'm just going to kind of go around here with this teeny tiny spoon to get any of that kind of got some moisture. Also scrape around where the blade is, because I would prefer not to waste any of this. It's probably not possible, but that's what I would prefer. And then I just take this and I go back and forth. And I'll let you see it from the front. Right, because it's really well ground. It's easy to do. Okay. Now, also, usually before I do this, I'll taste it. Is there anything it needs? It's going to be too spicy for Cheryl. Whoops. I should have, my instinct was, let's just do a quarter cup or a quarter teaspoon. But no, I had to get all kinds of crazy. So I made a whole bunch of Italian. So I actually have a whole backup of Italian. It's really easy. We're basically doing the same kinds of things. So with the Polish one, so I'm going to take this, and at the top, I'm just going to get that out so the little bit of the andouille sausage is out, and then I'm going to take the dry part of the towel and dry it out really good. We want to keep our spice stuff as well dried as possible. So I am going to get some sweetener. Let's see if I've got some date sugar. If I still have date sugar, I'll use it. See some coconut sugar back there. Woo. It's a good thing you guys can't see over here. This cabinet's kind of a mess. Okay, I got coconut sugar. We'll use it. So some coconut sugar, regular paprika, garlic powder. Now you're seeing why I had to get more garlic powder. Garlic powder, coriander, which was around here somewhere. Coriander, marjoram, celery seed, nutmeg and thyme. We could use whole celery seed or ground celery seed, whichever one you want. So I'll do the ground. I think the thyme is still over here. Usually everything's in my spice drawer in alphabetical order, but I've had so many things out and from the class earlier. Okay, great. So we're going to make the Polish sausage blend now. So I'm going to take 2 tablespoons of regular paprika. And Marilyn also is saying I'm mainly an ingredient dehydrator. Diced celery, diced bell pepper, doing everything at temperature until the celery leaves are done. Awesome. Well, and here's the thing. And Marilyn, you and I may just need to hop on a Zoom call because I have some ideas of blends and things that I want to make. Like I want to make a dry bouillon blend from all dehydrated vegetables and things like that. So if I could just check in with you and get some of your expertise, because you've been dehydrating for so much longer than I have, but I can take all those things and I can make some pretty cool things with them. I'm sure you can too. I have all the faith in the world in you, but you may not have the crazy brain that I do. So I know that everybody's dying to have a dehydrating class, and in fact, I'm dehydrating more things for fun anyhow. So I think it would be a good idea. Okay, and back to fresh Polish sausage blend. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of a dry sweetener. This could be date sugar. It is not. It is coconut sugar. You could also leave it out if you wanted to. It's just traditionally there is some sweetener in there. I also have some sweetener in a couple of my spice blends. But if it doesn't fit with your lifestyle, by all means, leave it out. So 2 tablespoons of plain paprika, not smoked, to make the fresh Polish sausage. Now, if you were like, I want to make the cured Polish sausage or the smoked one, you can use smoked instead. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of marjoram. And I'm thinking we probably lost Caleb from the beginning. Caleb was like, I'm not making all those sausages. If I'm wrong, Caleb, you let me know. And I will eat my words. Oh, and actually this is, oh, woo! That was about to be bad. That was ground nutmeg. I was like, did I grind my celery seed? No. And it doesn't smell like nutmeg either. So we're doing a teaspoon of that. We can use seeds. We could use whole peppercorns. We could use anything like that when we're grinding it down. That's just another awesome thing. So I could have coriander seeds instead of that. And Diane wants a dehydrator class too. Yeah, everybody wants one. So I just want to make sure that Marilyn doesn't feel unfairly. Like, I want your input. I don't want you just to be like, that's sure a funny thing that she's doing there. I would love to benefit from your experience. I'm going to add some black pepper in there. And again, if you're like my family's recipe had more black pepper than that, I'm going to do a ½ teaspoon of nutmeg. Then you should add that in. Let's see, did we get the, we did not put any thyme in, a ½ teaspoon of thyme. And now you see too, though, how every sausage maker has a different blend for things. Awesome. Marilyn's such a trooper. She doesn't mind. Diane wants a dehydrating class. I want a dehydrating class. Marilyn is going to help us. It's awesome. Joanne wants one. Honestly, I want one. It was a couple of years ago. I was talking to the publisher, Robert Rose, about possibly doing a dehydrator cookbook. But then, you know, I think it was like 6 months. I was working on another book, and then I was going to come back around to it, and then COVID happened. So I'm just going to grind all this stuff up here. I'll let you be where you can see all the excitement. Okay. Well, maybe we'll even do, I could make another breakfast spice blend. We've probably got, yeah, we've got a little while. So let's go ahead. And yeah, I didn't clean this. I'm not worried about a tiny bit going in here. So again, I'm just going to kind of put it all in here. If you have a big funnel, this didn't stick as much. But I'm still going to take my spoon, go around that little choppy thing. I think you can sort of see it there. I have found that this is the fastest way to do this and the least painful way to do this of all the ways that I have. I'm trying to think, we could make another sauce. I need some more sausage spice blends, so we could make one of those because we've got some time. And if you guys have some questions, I would love that too. Okay, with breakfast sausage, we need coconut sugar, onion powder, garlic powder. Honestly, I just use the Polish one again. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Marjoram. I do put salt in the breakfast spice, but you don't have to. You can leave it out. If I make, so I have a potato oat sausage on healthyslowcooking.com, and in that one I just use this whole recipe as one thing. So that's why I add salt in there. We'll leave it out. Thyme, rosemary, and all of this is spice. This isn't even all my spices. Rosemary, coriander, allspice, ground black pepper, and nutmeg. So these guys, this is what I always do because I actually have them alphabetized in here because there's too many to find otherwise. So after I cook or a class, I just sit everything back here, and then when I get around to that part of the kitchen, then I put them all back together, and it just works better. I'm going to go ahead and put this by the sink. Okay. So let's get this going. We're going to do 1 tablespoon of the sugar. This is probably about, well, I guess I got a little more than a tablespoon. And brown sugar is traditionally what's used, but just any kind of sweetener just really helps this a bit. I didn't get any sage. Sage is what really makes breakfast sausage. So we've got a tablespoon and a teaspoon. This is just rub sage. And a teaspoon. So whenever I get some sage fresh herb, I let it dry and then I rub it and fill this jar back up. Okay, then we want to do 2 teaspoons of onion powder. And you know, Joanne is asking in there, is it whole allspice? You could use either, but I used, all of this stuff is ground, so I used ground. If you're using whole for a quarter, the new whole allspice I have is very large, so I might use 6 of them and see if that works. It's also going to taste fresher. So yes, I got to, did I put the garlic powder in there? Yes. No, that's onion powder. 2 teaspoons garlic powder. So when you lose your place, you can always taste what's on top and figure it out from there. Works for me. Okay, 2 teaspoons of marjoram. And I'm skipping the salt because I'm going to use it in whatever I want. Then we're going to use 1 teaspoon of thyme. And again, you have these recipes in your packet. We're going to do a teaspoon of dried rosemary. Usually if I don't say powder, it means you can use regular rosemary. I save this and I use powdered rosemary in soup, stews, sauces. If I'm making a spice blend, I use this regular one. I don't like the way it pokes me if I do it otherwise. So that's why I do it that way. And see, when we get out of class, I don't have much coriander left, so I'm going to grind some coriander seeds. A 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. A 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And you know, this is something I find interesting. So sometimes in culinary circles, they'll be like, why would you use a measurement that's not on here? So like I'm using 1/8 teaspoon. And so we're guessing it, right? About half of that. I don't find that odd or hard or weird, but there's some culinarians that like get really like stressed out by that. And I'd be curious, like, because I feel like showing you 1/8 teaspoon is something that you can kind of look at and tell. Whereas if I say 2 pinches, your pinch may be bigger than mine. And so to me, this is going to be closer to a consistent product. But I'd be really interested in knowing what you think. So with this one, I put this on. And let's grind this puppy up. Okay. I'm also grabbing some things for later. But while if you don't have as powerful a motor in your spice grinder, you might have to grind things twice. But you know what? It's not a big deal. Okay. Once again, and again, taste it. Yummy. But if maybe something wasn't as strong this time or as fresh, I might decide, you know, I don't taste enough marjoram. I'm going to add another 1/2 teaspoon. Just blend it in there and blend it until you're like, taste it and you're like, that's just the way I want it. Yeah, and Marilyn likes the 1/8 teaspoon. Someone else was talking, what they were really talking about was 1/2 tablespoon. They were like, they also hate salt to taste. They feel like it's a front against nature, I think. So salt to taste is a really heated topic in the culinary world. And we all know where I stand on that, because I think you should have food that you like. Their point of view is that, how would you know what you like? And what I try to do is teach you how to smell them and taste them so you do know what you like. So to me, that's easy. That's a lot easier than me going, did you grow up eating heavily salted food or not? do you like the taste of this better than that, right? I can't make those decisions for you. I mean, I can. And honestly, it's, sometimes I might wish I would. So, and this one will hold a double or a triple batch of most things. And let's see, we got some other things here. And so I know, Linda, you might have to give me some ideas because Linda just got a dehydrator book. And for all of you rewatching this, I'm sorry that we're going just hard on the dehydrator train, but once you start making hot dogs and sausages, your brain just goes this way. And Diane says, my mother used to say that with cooking there was lots of leeway, but baking measurements needed to be exact. That is what they say. And I always tell my friend Fran Costigan, she's like an amazing vegan pastry chef. She does, I think her book is Vegan Chocolate. If you can have gluten and stuff, you should look. It's awesome. She even has an oil-free cake. I think she made for one of the McDougal's weddings or Esselstyn? I can't remember. There was a wedding, she made a cake, no oil. It's in the book. But I'm always like, you're just going to smack me when you see me baking because I'm a little haphazard. I'm definitely more of a mad scientist that makes some brownies and muffins and cake and stuff like that, but I'm not a baker. I'm making something that's going to taste the way I want to. I'm doing it gluten-free, oil-free, vegan, so I'm not expecting that light, fluffy texture. And that is supposed to be happening. That's the milty that releases the pressure on its own. So just know that that's kind of one of the things too. So I kind of just go crazy, but like things like my Teff brownies, it does have oil in there, and I have made them oil-free. They are not as great, but you could try using avocado or maybe even a date paste instead of the oil and try it and see if it works. But they're amazing. They were an experiment. I hadn't used Teff flour. I'm like, I'm supposed to make brownies. Let me do a 1-to-1 and let's see what fails. Let's see where it doesn't work so I can put that in. Well, it worked because Teff has a higher protein value. And I was like, this is awesome. And Joanne says, that's why I would rather cook than bake. Joanne and I are a little bit of the same type of person, I think. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right, guys. Let's open up some sausages and then we'll see how much time we end up having. You've got a packet this time. So in addition to those sausage recipes, you've got a chorizo blend, and you've got the andouille seitan sausage, which does have gluten, but I wanted those of you who eat gluten to have that recipe so you can try it. You also have the experiment, and if you notice, it's like experimental makes, I don't know, and then it's still in the experimental stage. So if you're a new cook, maybe skip that one. What's going to happen is as I firm it up, it's going to go on my blog, so you will get a real recipe eventually, but I got to make soy milk, so it's going to be a couple weeks for me to make that much soy milk. So, and I'm saying I didn't recommend stacking the silicone molds, but we're trying another experiment in class, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, you've got like 14 or 15 pages worth of stuff this time. And the hot dog recipe is in your packet too, but it's in Gluten-Free Vegan Cooking in your Instant Pot. If you are new to me and you're new to gluten-free, this could be really good. Or you're just gluten-free and new to the Instant Pot. All right, with that said, let's take a look at this sausage and see what it looks like. Oh, it was Rip. Okay, thank you. That's awesome. I have a half tablespoon measuring spoon as well. Okay, so ideally these are still toasty. They've been sitting here a while. And so you are going to lose some in there, but that's all a good sign because that looks like sausage. And then you can just take and peel this off. And it's okay if it's not perfect. And so usually I'll let that dry a little while. And I'll let these cool off all the way. But this is pretty amazing for where it is right now. It's not all the way cool. And I know you can't see that super awesome, but does see how it looks like it has little fat globules in there? I just really like it. And see if something falls apart a little bit, you can pat it back together. Now, one of the things I did with this, and actually it's easier if you let it dry or cool all the way. You can see that for sure. Is you can also then cut this up. Ooh, it tastes really good. In little chunks and pan fry them. And then you could put them on top of soups or stews. They'll still pretty much stick together. It's not going to be exactly like gluten. So that's one thing that I do. And actually, I'll go ahead and cut the rest of this, and I'll put this in a bowl. And you can put it on top of salads, on top of pasta, on top of a stew. What I would not do is cook this inside of a stew because it's going to return to its original bean and grain consistency. The more it dries and cools, the less mushy it's going to be. And it's really not that mushy. I mean, I'm pushing fairly hard and it's not just squishing around. I know, isn't it kind of crazy? Did I say gumbo in the email? I didn't mean a gumbo. I am sorry about that. I probably said andouille sausage for gumbo. There is an andouille sausage butternut squash gumbo recipe on Healthy Slow Cooking. Now it uses oil and it uses a wheat roux. You could just toast oat flour and not do the roux. If that one is not in the Instant Pot, so if you want to make a gumbo in the Instant Pot, look up on plantbasedinstantpot.com for the mushroom gumbo. You have to do it differently. On the stove, you make the roux, then you add all the things and you cook it. It's too thick to come up to pressure in the Instant Pot. That's why you have to do it a little bit differently. So let me get a little bowl or something to put these pieces. I'm trying to remember now which sausage blend I used first. I'm never going to keep up with these, but you'll be able to see it in this white dish really well too. I know, considering that basically, I mean, there are flours in here, so it's not really SOFAS or Chef AJ compliant. You might be able to get away with just using oats, but it's going to be hard, and I don't think it's going to work as far as a link sausage. With that said, I've got a bunch of non-link sausage recipes that are compliant. But if we're going to make it kind of like gluten, we have to use some of these other higher protein flours. And see, the one that I did try without any flour, and I'm going to wash this knife off while I'm talking to you. The one I tried without any flours is going to make a really good ground sausage. But I want to try a different cooking method because I think steaming it first is just stupid. It tried to hold together, but it just couldn't, and that's okay. You know, we're already making ingredients kind of go a lot out of their way for us. So it's okay that sometimes it has to be really good. I think I used the Polish sausage one in this one. Or did I use the Italian? I'm so confused now. And I've made so many spices and smelled so many things, everything's starting to smell the same. So there is waste. So like this is something you just throw away. If I was going to freeze these, I still would take them out of all this first and then freeze them. So that's for sure. And our hot dogs are going to be done in about 5 minutes. let's see, this guy. This is the one that might be a little bit harder. We may or may not have gotten this cooked enough. So I'm just going to leave the rest steaming in here. And you should use, because it's pretty hot. Let's see how squishy it is. It may need some extra cooking. It's holding together pretty good, actually. Let's look at it. So again, we're doing this earlier because I don't want the class to be 4 hours. So this one is going to be a little moister, but see, look. And this is taking it out too early. So like, look, there's a tear there. If I let it cool a little more, that tear wouldn't happen. But you can already see that in general, oh, that's good. In general, it's still holding together pretty gosh darn good. So let me, here, I'll get another guy out here and we'll let it cool a little bit. This is also why I'm saying it's much better to let this cure a little bit. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I really did not, I copied from another email, so I must have messed something up. It smells like sausage for sure. Yeah, and I think those gumbos, the mushroom gumbo for the Instant Pot from plantbasedinstantpot.com, or, and I'm trying to buy a little time before I cut into it so it'll look a little bit better. And you saw that a few things came off. And again, once we let this cool a little bit more, that shouldn't happen. So you can even see that it has a little bit of a skin, has very much a sausage look to it. So again, this is something we would put on top. What I would do is I would slice it into coins or half moons, pan fry it or air fry it. You could do it either way. If I pan fried it, I just use a nonstick pan and no oil. I'm just looking to get that crispiness so that when we put it on top of the gumbo, it doesn't dissolve. This should be pretty good now, but that extra step will give you enough time that it doesn't like turn back to its original form. I know, it's pretty amazing. It looks like sausage at all. We're not supposed to be able to make gluten with no gluten, right? So I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with all this. I've been wanting to do it for a while. And I mean, even as you see, as this keeps cooling, I mean, it's not melting into each other or anything like that. So if I get that crisp edge on it, I can put it on other things. I actually use the chorizo spice in this one, because it already looks kind of chorizo-ish, which is kind of cool. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, and I cut it up in things like that. I actually pan fried it. You could go ahead and get it to crumbles too. Sausage crumbles are easy. You want to make crumbles with any of these, you go right ahead. So don't let that stop you. But then I just put them in tacos, or you could put them on a taco salad. And actually I made an oat nacho cheese. I put some chorizo crumbles on top of that. We put, gosh, all the nacho fixings and made a dip. And it was amazing. And it's made out of really whole food plant-based ingredients. And even the flours are still whole food ingredients. If you don't eat flour, much respect to you. But you're going to be better off making sausage patties. So using something like, I have 1 or 2 recipes on Healthy Slow Cooking that are sausage patties. If you look those up, they're great. You make a patty. So the reason we have to have the flours is because we've got to get this whole mix to stick together into a sausage patty. And my apologies that some of the emails said gumbo. I know, vegetables need to come up to the plate and take one for the team. This is taking it for the team, I tell you that. And then Marilyn was saying, I can see making jambalaya with rice and seasonings, then stirring air-fried heated sausage on top. Exactly. And it would be amazing. So what gluten does that this stuff can't do is it because it holds together, because gluten is just that stretchy, glutinous thing. And we don't have that going on for us here. Okay, so I think this is probably cooled down enough that I can try and cut it, though this is not the best time. We're going to see a little more sausage. You see a little more stuff on the knife. And it's a little more wet on the inside. So that's the difference between letting it rest and not. Now, if I was in a real hurry, I could still do this and fry it into coins. I'm going to have to cook this longer. It's just stickier than the others. But the other got to rest for a really long time. So we'll see if we can have this. Ow. I need to stop grabbing all the hot things. Let's get these hot dogs. Let's see, about here, I think. One thing I have decided I really like about this Evo Duo Plus is releasing the steam. They really have it where it makes such a fine mist. It's much nicer to deal with. Okay, move this, and let me get this other one going too so we can look at both of those. Trying to get it away from all the wires. That one's still going. Yeah. See if we can get some of these out so they can cool enough for us to look at them. But again, and see, as this is cooling, I don't know if you'll be able to see from the color. Let's see. Can you guys see that the edges are starting to dry a little bit? As it cools, that kind of goes in more towards the middle. It smells so good though. It smells really, really good. Okay, move this over here. I cannot believe we've done this many things. So I'm going to take this out, put it on my hot plate, and let's kind of take one of these away from there so it can kind of start to cool a little bit. Move this. I'm going to be cleaning up for several hours after this class. No Cheryl to help me. And we'll take also a look at the sausage molds that we used. Let's see. I think we can get this off of here. Okay. Trying to get it where you can see as much as you can. And these always leak water when they come out a little bit. Okay, so let's see if you can see this. Can you kind of see the water on there? If I move it around, you can see the water a little bit. That's how much water that would have gone in here had we not put it on. That's why I think if you're using these other ones, you're going to have to cook it significantly longer. Yeah, these are the silicone hot dogs. And see, it's still got some things in here. Now, and even still, look, there's definitely some water. You can see it glistening. So I think if we do these, they're pretty firm, but they need to cure and dry. So let me show you the first thing I'm going to do. is I'm going to pour out any of the water that's in there, which isn't that much, but it doesn't take much to make these harder to deal with. Okay, so I'm going to sit that on here. And we're going to let that dry. And we'll also, when we come out of here, I was about to say we'll do it so we won't get water on there. And what did I do? I dumped all that water in that last hot dog. So I'm going to, God, that was probably a tablespoon. That was a lot. Okay? But they feel more solid. Now, if they are not solid enough after they cure, then I would you could take this whole thing, you could put the silicone thing and everything right into the air fryer to harden it up a little bit, let it cool, and then pop them out. They'll pop out pretty easily, but we'll look at that. I want to let it cool just a minute. We'll look at that last. Okay. All the sausages. So this is one of the regular hot dogs. And actually, yeah, and you can see too that this sausage, the more it cools, and see now the clouds happened. Let me see if well, it's just going to be what it's going to be for right now. Okay, so I'm just going to sit that over here. This is another one that's been cooling, and we'll look at that one in a minute. This is a hot dog that just came out, but it got to rest longer than that first one did. Okay, and a good sign is when we see some of the batter or dough sticking there. And again, some of this is going to stick. This one's going to be a little harder because we're doing it while it's hot instead of while it's cooled. Actually, you know what? I'll let that sit there for a minute and cool down a little bit like that, and then we'll try it again. Oh, and Marilyn says she has a Duo Evo button to release the steam. I know. What I like even better than the button is that actually the thing on the top makes a finer mist of it, so it doesn't go everywhere. And I'm really liking it a lot for classes because I can just flip it and then just go on with my business. And these are the silicone hot dogs. Oh, thank you. It's been a long week, but I got my second vaccine on Monday, and I'm excited, and I'm feeling more like a human being again. So it's time I had to catch up, get on it, and then tomorrow may be a day off, possibly. We'll see. But it's all worth it for you guys. And I know I need to ask Moxie to picture. You guys can't see her, I don't think. She's just over here hanging out, chilling. Instapots don't even, she just doesn't care. The only time you hear from her is when she wants to be fed. Yeah, I know. And Max is too neurotic. So we're going to open up, this is again the second batch of sausage that's had a little bit more time to cool. But again, I'm starting to think that then letting this kind of get a little more cool in this paper, like step by step, if you're trying to get some of this paper so I can grab it for the trash, that might be a good way to go too. So again, we'll look at that one, and basically all I'm doing is buying time for the hot dogs to cool a little bit. Yay, thank you, Diane. I am thrilled. It did not make me as sick as I thought it was, but I did have to spend one day in bed. So I did kind of lose. See, look, see how much easier this is coming off now that didn't even get to get cool enough. And that's the sausage before that was coming apart a little bit. So all of that and all of this stuff that was happening over here was because I didn't let it cool. So I'm going to let this cool just a little bit. Let's see if this is cooled enough that I can take it off now. I still may lose a couple of pieces because I had already torn them off. And again, you will have a much easier time of this if you just let it cool. So I'm doing exactly what I'm telling you not to, so you just don't have to hang out here basically watching fake gluten dry. So I'm taking a taste of it. It's super yummy. I think it's super fun to have a hot dog. And I mean, I know this isn't perfect again, but this is as bad as it gets. This is when you're not doing what I tell you to do. So this isn't going to be perfect either. But you can see in there? And so if we let it dry all the way, and this isn't even dry all the way, but this is drier. I'm going to try and get some of the gunk. Actually, I'm just going to get a fresh knife. What I would say when you're cutting this is to keep the knife clean, because else it's just going to be harder. So again, and see how that's a little less gooey, a little less wet than the one we started out with, but then look at it now. So now that it's had time to dry out and rest all the way, it looks a lot more. And I guess it does shrink up a little bit too. I think you're right, Joanne. I think this one does shrink up some too. But I let them cool as much as possible. Inside the wrappings. Also, quite honestly, let me wash my hands. Quite honestly, the foil is hot. It's really not something that you want to handle. I know you're going to be super excited and want to see if it's done yet or not, but it's just not in your best interest. Hopefully I've shown you that it's not in your best interest. And let's see if we can get one of these hot dogs out of the mold, because the mold, getting them out of the mold was pretty easy. They were definitely super wet. So let me get a drier one. So like literally you can push it and there you go. And then they kind of need to still cure all the way. So I think these will work. I think you have to be very careful about letting them dry and how much water is involved as far as steam. If you are steaming with just those tops on that have the holes, I think that you are going to have to let them dry out completely in here and pour off as much water as you can. Then let them dry some more. We should be able to get these out too. Now the thing is because this isn't metal, it does cool a lot faster. And so these really are cool enough to handle. They're not perfect looking, but you can serve them perfect. The bottom side up is going to be the side that looks a little more perfect. But this would make great cocktail weenies. And I think they would be really good. And see, this is one of the ones that was a little too wet. See how shiny it is? That shiny needs to go away before we put them away. Put this over there. So they do work. They are small. They're even smaller than I think regular hot dogs should be. Now I think I made jumbo hot dogs this time. I would say this is more of a jumbo hot dog. And you could certainly make them smaller. You can make any of this bigger or smaller depending on what you like. There's just no reason not to. And literally what I'm going to do is leave this stuff here while I'm cleaning up. Once it's cool, once it's kind of lost its shine, I'll put it in a baggie. And either I'll put it in the freezer, and you could use a Ziploc bag. You can put it in a Ziploc bag in the fridge. I do not know how long these will last in the fridge. I'm going to assume 7 to 10 days. It's also going to depend if you're using leftover things that you had. So the ones that had the rice, that was leftover rice. So that probably cut a few days off of it. So those I should go ahead and freeze and just pull out of the freezer when I'm ready for them, if that makes sense. Okay. I like that. Joanne gives me the day off. I like that. I know I have plenty of sausage for eating. I'm doing 2 different like mastermind things. So I have like a to-do list like a crazy person. but I do get to sit down and do that work on the computer. So I think there will be, the only cooking is going to be, Cheryl, heat up some hot dog buns, because I got some gluten-free hot dog buns. I'm going to have to make some coleslaw, and I think we've got a can of our emergency can of Amy's chili. That's like my backup meal if we don't feel good or something. But maybe we'll do some Carolina hot dogs, chili slaw hot dogs. That sounds lovely. We might do that tonight. Marilyn says, awesome class. Oh, awesome. I know it has been a little while. I've been trying to make them a little bit shorter and more concise, but there was no way to do this in any less time. I'm kind of shocked that this didn't turn into like a 4 or 5 hour class, but I did as much ahead of time as I could for you. And Diane, I would not cook them before I freeze them. I would just let them dry so that they're going to pack together and not stick, right? And you can already see this is starting to get some good holes and textures into it from where, and it takes a while to get into the center. So if you're really wanting to something, like you made these and you're like, I really want this on my jambalaya, if you cut it into coins carefully, have a wet towel to do your knife so it doesn't get goopy, you could go ahead and let them dry a little longer. They'll dry out faster, and then you could pan fry them. But just to freeze them, no, you just need to let them cool, unwrap them. I would unwrap them just because it's going to be really hard to get that parchment paper off if it gets frozen on. So I'm not even going to go down that route. I'd rather have it naked in a resealable bag would be my first go-to. And I think they should last months in the freezer. I have some now that are a few weeks old. They look fine. But they should last a significant while. Yeah, exactly. And so, because once you take them out of the freezer, then you're either going to put them in the air fryer, pan fry them until they're cooked all the way through like you would any other vegan sausage that you get. That's one of my favorite things. We're almost through our case that we got at that bin store. We did go back to the bin store because it was really empty, but they didn't have any foods. They said they haven't had food in 6 months since we were there last. So fingers crossed that some dates are going to start going out of date soon so I could get some more Amy's chili. Because that case of Amy's chili cost me $8. That was it. So it's hard to go in now and pay like $3 a can or something. Oh, and I love that. Joanne's saying kids will love them. Once they're on the grill in the frying pan, they look great. Remember, hot dogs aren't pretty when you open the package. And it's true. And here's the thing. You could, I like seeing these veggies. I think grown-ups like seeing some veggies in the dogs. I think that's a real cool thing for us. It may not be such a cool thing for a kid. So if you're making it for a kid, maybe use the food processor to get it processed down more. I love having those little bits of things in there. And the hot dogs that I had at the Worcester, I know I'm saying it wrong, but doing the best I can, the Worcester, Massachusetts Veg Fest a couple of years ago, you could see all the veggies. And I thought, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever, because we just see that pink, weird, squishy thing. And so it made me feel like, yeah, I'm eating some veggies. And I felt kind of good about that. Okay, so Linda, no. No. And that's a good thing. Could you completely cool the sausage and freeze them in the parchment and foil that you steam them in? No. Because what's going to happen is you'll get the foil off, okay, but that parchment is going to be frozen on and it's in it a little bit. So you're going to have to heat it up some and then try to pull the parchment off. I would not, under any circumstances, do that. With that said, if you want to try one and tell us what exactly happens, I'd be happy to hear that. But I'm gonna peel all of these apart and put them in freezer bags, and perhaps some friends are getting some gluten-free veggie sausage and hot dogs today. I feel like I should go on like I wish there was like the gluten-free vegan next door and I could be like, so who wants to trade me for these cool sausages? Let's see, I thought I heard another thing. Do you guys have any other questions before we finish up? And you guys have been troopers. You hung in for the long haul. I appreciate it. I know a lot went on in this class. I know that. You can go back and watch these. And you can also look, because remember, I varied from the recipes a little bit. So if you're making a recipe and you're like, well, this is still too soft, you can come back up here and look and see, oh, flaxseed. Add some extra flaxseed if it's too wet. If it's already starting to look too dry, like if you're using really old basmati rice in your fridge like I did, you could go ahead and decide to start mixing in half the amount of flours and then go and put in the rest if you need it. Food processor is going to need more dry ingredients than if you just mash it and mix it up in a bowl. So I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say. You can probably switch some flours around. You can switch some veggies around. You can switch some beans around. You can switch some grains around and make your own combinations too. What will we be cooking next time? Oh, I actually do know what we're going to cook next time. So 2 Saturdays from today, whatever date that is, we're doing Tex-Mex class number 1, because I actually went through and there's a bunch of Tex-Mex classes I want to do. We're going to do a walnut taco meat. We're going to do soy curl veggie fajitas with a soy-free option. We are going to make queso, and we're going to make refried pinto, not fried pinto beans, but refried pinto beans. So, and if all goes well, I didn't put this on the thing, we're going to make our own gluten-free flour tortillas, because flour tortillas is a big Tex-Mex thing and it's something I miss so much. And just to get like 8 gluten-free flour tortillas or wraps or whatever, they're like $6 to $8. They're really expensive. So I know Jackie and I were talking, and I did just get some cassava flour. I was thinking of maybe using some sweet potato cassava flour tortillas. Haven't made them yet, so I can't guarantee you that's going to be on there. But and we may, I can't remember if I said we'd make a sauce or not. We can always make like a salsa too. And then I am working on what's going to be for May. And I'm thinking maybe we should do a dehydrator class in May or June. So I'm going to try and get those together. If I take my day off on Sunday, it will probably be later next week before I have an idea what we're doing. But do you guys have any other questions? 9 people stayed through the whole class. You guys should get super bonus points. I want to see pictures of your sausage and hot dogs. I really, really do. So if you can't post them online for some reason, if you will email them to me at kathyhester@gmail.com, I will post them for you. But I really want to see these. And if you post them, will you let me know if it's okay for me to share them on social? Because I'd really like to show them off, because I know you guys are going to do amazing. Oh, I think that you just invented a new app or a new page. Tell me, I missed that. So tell me what we're talking about. Oh, Marilyn, Mrs. Oh, yes, I did. I got 2 bags. So Marilyn does Misfit Market, and so do I. And they had cassava flour is kind of expensive, and it's not often on sale. So I bought 2 bags, knowing I wanted to try flour tortillas with them. Oh, yay! Oh, Sonia, this is my first class with you. Absolutely delighted, inspired. That's great. And here's the thing. I know you can do this. What's hard through all of this is trying to know, like trying to second guess what's happening next. So like like even now, if you look at these hot dogs, they look more right. So, and this is definitely a better texture. So if you didn't see it in class, it's really hard to know, well, is it just wrong because I opened it up too soon? Or in this way, you have those things that aren't necessarily in the recipes. You know, the recipes can only say so much without turning into a book. But I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, and I know you can totally do this. And Joanne said this is kind of an advanced class in that, you know, in a way it's advanced, in a way it's not. Because if you can cook some veggies, rice, beans, or use canned beans, you can make these. You really can. It's not as hard as people think it is. Now, if you're wanting it to be just like field roast sausage or tofurkey sausage, it's not a one-to-one. You got to remember too, we're doing these oil-free, which is crazy town for it to have this much interesting texture and be oil-free too. Oh, awesome, Colleen. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you want some sausages, email me and I'll leave you some on the porch. Because I think you live in Hillsboro, but I don't know for a fact. But if you live close, I'm happy to put some out for you. Because I have a lot of them. So there's that. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Wait, and here's the thing. I want you guys to know too that I'm a self-taught cook. I remember not knowing how to do these things. And I remember only following instructions on a recipe. And then I broke free. And, you know, even when you make something crazy, let's say this hot dog. This hot dog does not look nice. Because I opened it up too soon. See how it's all like that compared to this? But you know what? If I cut that up and put it into some beanie weenies, nobody's ever going to know. And I think that's the thing that you really just have to remember, is that it's okay, it's not perfect. Because you know what? The sausages you buy, they have lots of weird things in them. They may have lots of weird oils in them. They have machinery that does all this stuff for them, right? So you are taking the place. What we did was amazing with our Instant Pots and our own 2 little hands and some foil and some parchment. It's pretty amazing. And you're amazing. And I know you can do this. And if you have questions while you're doing it, I'm online often. So I may not catch you right when you're in the middle of your sausages, but if you reach out to me and I see it, I certainly will. Just put it, you know, just let me know what's going on. Oh, that's the app you were talking about for gluten-free vegan food sharing. That would be pretty awesome, actually. So I like that. Okay, and Colleen, yeah, just email me, kathyhester@gmail.com, and we'll talk. There could be a package that changes hands. Can I please stop by Florida? I wish I was going on vacation right now. It's not that time yet. We're actually trying to figure out when we're going to see Cheryl's parents, you know, because they're all vaccinated. We got to figure out how everything's going, but it is possible that before the year's over, we could be going to Florida. So maybe we'll have a meetup somewhere. I don't know. They live in Ocala, Florida, so I don't know how far away you guys live from there. But if the world is more right and safe, we like to go to Orlando to go eat at some of the really awesome vegan eateries over there. So maybe we could have a little Kathy's Cooking Club meetup in Florida. Fingers crossed that the world is so safe that we can do that. But I will let you know. Okay, awesome, you guys. You are amazing. You can make all this stuff, I promise you. It's going to take a little time, but bring your computer over if you want. Cook along with me if you need a little extra confidence. Or sometimes I'll watch like TV or a movie when I'm doing a whole bunch of things that I'm going to be cooking for hours and hours. And just relax and let my mind enjoy that. And while I'm doing this other stuff, I do that when I'm cleaning too. It's super helpful. Fort Myers. I don't know where Fort Myers is. And I know Joanne has told me like 80 bazillion times where she lives. Florida's a black hole. There's Harry Potter World, Cheryl's parents, the rest of Florida. It's about all I know. It's sad. Um, but anyhow, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Send me some happy cleaning energy, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks back here. Same, well, not exactly. I'll send you a new link, but we'll be on YouTube. There'll be a new link. You'll have new recipes, and we're going to have a Tex-Mex fiesta. Okay? All right. I'll see you guys later.